Dad Money with Cornerstone Mortgage. Quick question about overall expenses that a buyer can, I guess, plan for and expect to pay when they are going out and financing a property. What can they expect to pay out of pocket?
Yeah, so the big ones are obviously the down payment. And you've got loan programs out there that, they'll allow you to buy a house with as little as 3% down. So 3 to 5% is kind of the norm as far as the down payment goes. On top of that, you've got closing costs. Closing costs are incorporated, or it's a combination of maybe the lender's closing cost and the attorney's closing cost and intangible taxes and deed transfer taxes. But then also another part of those are setting up your escrow, right? So paying for that first year's homeowner's insurance, setting up an escrow for your property taxes, that kind of jazz. Then the other cost that I think about when I think about buying a home are like your diligence costs, right? So like an appraisal, and that's paid before you close, and maybe an inspection. So you've got an appraisal, you've got an inspection, and any other diligence that you want to perform as well. If you wanted to have a septic inspection done or a structural engineer come look, these things would all add on too. But the main ones, when I generally get that question, what they want to know is it's down payment plus closing costs, right? So if you're putting 5% down, you'd say, okay, I got 5% down on this on a $300,000 house, that's $15,000. And then closing costs on a $300,000 house, they do about 2%. So that'd be another $6,000. So in theory, in that scenario, you're looking at about $15,000 down plus another $6,000 closing costs, $21,000 total. Now, one thing to remember, sometimes it's harder than others, but the sellers can pay those closing costs. You can negotiate that in a contract. Now, again, sometimes it's harder in a hot market to get a seller to pay it, but that is something that can be talked about and discussed, and that will help minimize the out-of-pocket if it's important.
And when are they expected to pay this 21 grand on a $300,000 property? When do they need to have that by?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, so ideally by closing, right? Take it a step further. Ideally, 2 weeks before closing, we've got all the funds set aside. That way, the lender, can review all your documents. I can see the bank statements where the money's at. I can make sure it came from acceptable sources. We actually have to source where all the money comes from to make sure you haven't taken a loan out or brought it into the transaction from someplace you haven't been supposed to. Now, the one other thing, so although that's all due at closing, but I want to see it as a lender 2 weeks before, one thing they should prepare for, though, they being buyers, is to write an earnest money check when they go under contract, right? So a lot of times in this market, either 1 to 2% of whatever the purchase price of a house is, you're going to share with the seller up front as earnest money. Earnest just means good faith. And so this is money that's just going to get applied to those closing costs and the down payment at the very end, but you have to forward them and share them with the seller or the seller of the house on the front end of the transaction. And so in that $300,000 deal, you're probably looking at $3,000 to $6,000 needed up front as earnest money. And you'd have to pay that usually within like 5 to 7 days of being binding, the latest.
Right, and that'll come out of the closing costs. So that'll be subtracted from that 21,000. So you just need to have all those funds secured 2 weeks beforehand. Now, what if they don't have the 21,000, Chad? Oh shit, I don't have $21,000. Do I take another loan out from somebody, or can I borrow the money from anybody? What is that situation called?
Yeah, gift funds are allowed in most instances. And so, I would probably lean on maybe a gift. Is there a family member, a friend, someone who could gift you the funds? Ideally, any and all buyers have spoke to a lender ahead of time and gotten a pre-approval, and we've already had the conversation about the down payment, the assets, and where's it all going to come from. So, I would hate for somebody to be in that kind of a scramble, 2 weeks into the process, right? Like, I don't know where my money's going to come from. But if that did happen, generally gifts are like the first go-to. It's like if you don't have it all of a sudden, or a 401k, right? Is there a 401k where we can borrow our money against, and then you get it back into there once wherever the money you thought was coming from shows back up? And the gifts work the same way. Is there someone who would gift you the money for a short-term period of time that once you find the money that you thought you had, then you can kind of repay them if that's needed?
All right, and then all that it really takes on the person to get those funds is you just kind of write it out and then they sign it like, hey, my name is Scott and I'm giving my wife $20,000 for this deal, right?
Yep. So there are standard kind of template form gift letters out there for the mortgage business. So you would get a gift letter, you'd have it completed by the donor and the donee. Now on conventional loans, normally all you need is that letter, and then we just need a copy of the wire transfer from the donor to the attorney's office at the closing, right? So they would send it the day of the closing. We just need wire confirmation. So you just got the gift letter and wire confirmation. Government loans, though, FHA and VA, they require a little bit more information. Not only do they want the gift letter to see the wire, they want something called donor's ability. They're going to want to see a copy of the donor's actual bank statement to show that they had the money to give it to you, and that you didn't kind of funnel money through from somebody else to them to then them give it to you. And so depending on the loan type, you either just need the gift letter, the wire confirmation, or gift letter, donor's ability, wire confirmation.
Heard that.